Hi everyone, you're really welcome here today for our lunchtime webinar on newborn baby behavioural observation, supporting parents to connect with their newborn babies. And we're here in collaboration with Dublin City South CYPSC. My name is Siobhan Harvey and I'm the Community Engagement Manager with ISPCC Childline. Also joining me today on this webinar is Emma Riley, the Child Health Programme Development Officer with the HSE, and our guest speaker, who we're delighted to have, Trish Hurley. And Trish is the Infant Mental Health and Wellbeing Coordinator with Let's Grow Together. I'd just like to say thank you all for taking the time out this lunchtime to be here with us. I know everybody is quite busy, so it's great to have everybody here. In a moment, I'm just going to briefly have a little talk about the ISPCC services and programmes that ISPCC have on offer for young people and for parents. But first of all, we have to look after the housekeeping. So just to let you all know, you're probably aware that you're all been placed on mute and your cameras have been turned off. So it'll stay like that for the duration of the webinar. We are going to have a Q&A session at the end, so if you do have any questions during the webinar, if you can send them in using the Q&A feature, and then we will try to get to as many as possible. So the Q&A feature should be up at the top left-hand corner of your toolbar at the top. So if you pop any questions in there, we will answer them at the end of the webinar. If we don't get to answer them or you don't want to ask us directly here, you can always contact us afterwards. And just to remind everybody that today's webinar is being recorded, and once the recording is available, it will be made available on all ISPCC digital platforms. So just a little bit about ISPCC and the different services that we provide to children, young people and their parents. Everybody is probably very aware of our Childline listening service. And this is a 24-hour services for children and young people up to the age of 18, where they can phone in or they can have live online chat. We also have our Ask the Team service, which is for children and young people, where they can pop us a question about anything that they want, and then we will reply to them as well. We have our Childline Therapeutic Support Service, and this service is in various locations throughout the country, and this provides one-to-one therapeutic support to children, young people and their parents. We can meet with them wherever they feel most comfortable, so that might be online, it might be in their home, or it might be in their school or local community centre. We then have a couple of programmes. Our first one being our Smart Moves programme, and this is a schools transition programme which aims to support the emotional resilience of children as they prepare to transition from primary school into secondary school. We also have our Shield anti-bullying programme, which aims to support any organisation that works with young people in their efforts to proactively manage bullying. Then we have a number of programmes for young people and also for their parents around anxiety, and these are our digital mental health and wellbeing programmes. They're aimed at reducing anxiety for children and young people, and then there's also programmes for parents and carers around managing their anxiety while supporting their anxious child or their anxious teen. We've lots of different supports for parents. We've our Parenting Hub, which publishes articles in relation to pairing and parenting support on a range of topics on our website. We have our Digital Ready Hub, and this is a trusted destination for information on how, as a parent or carer, you can support your young person to have positive experiences online. So there's lots of videos and content from cyber psychology experts, from the Garda Online Exploitation Unit, clinical psychologists, parents, carers themselves. It's a really, really good resource for parents to go to. We have our support line, which is a listening service, and it offers information to parents and carers and gives advice and emotional support. And you can ring up and discuss anything that you want to chat about. And that's open Monday to Friday from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And that can be contacted on 01 522 4300. And another service that we have for parents then is our Ask Robin. So it's very similar to our Ask the Team. And this is for parents where they can post a question and ask us anything to do around parenting, and our therapeutic support workers will make contact back with you. And like today, we also offer loads of webinars to support and educate parents on various different topics. Could be on online safety, around sleep, school avoidance, and they're all on our platforms as well to be found. And then lastly, we have our Tozy app, which we're delighted to say Vodafone Ireland Foundation, who have partnered with DCU, Anti-Bullying and ourselves in Childline to develop this app. And this is for young people, and it's aimed at creating a safer, more positive online space for them. So for any more information regarding any of our services, I know that was a quick whistle-stop tour, you can log on to ispcc.ie for more information. So I'm delighted now. I'm going to hand over to Emma, who's going to tell us a little bit about the event in the week, because we have these lunch webinars for the next couple of days. And in turn, Emma will introduce Trish, our guest speaker.
That's lovely. Thank you so much, Yvonne. And thank you all for joining us at our Learn at Lunchtime webinar and taking the time to be with us today. So I'm Emma Riley. I'm the Child Health Programme Development Officer for Dublin South, Kildare and West Wicklow, and I work with the HSE as part of the National Healthy Childhood Programme. I'm also the chair of the Dublin City South CYPSC Infant Health and Wellbeing Working Group, and the coordinator for Dublin City South is Nuala Nigiboon, who's with us today, which is great. This working group is made up of a really wonderful, dedicated group of statutory, community and voluntary sector professionals, and we got together to set about to identify ways of working together to improve infant health and wellbeing outcomes in the Dublin City South area. So this work is part of the Young Ireland Policy Framework, and that provides a platform to realise the rights of babies, children and young people in Ireland, so that we can all work together in partnership effectively to ensure that babies, children and young people can thrive. And so our work comes under the active and healthy aspect of that particular policy. So we consulted last year with local stakeholders in Dublin City South and asked them to kind of guide us with regards to, you know, what it is that we should be working on to achieve those outcomes. So one of those things was around increasing the awareness and the importance of the first 1,000 days in infant health and wellbeing, and in particular infant mental health, and also to promote opportunities for further interagency connection and collaboration. So with those, there were other asks as well, but those were the two kind of sort of higher level ones. So with that particular kind of lens, we set about organising this year's events, which we've titled Let's Connect, Supporting Connection with Infants in the First 1,000 Days. So this week, as you know, we've 3 webinars. Today we've got Trish, who's going to look at newborn baby behaviour observation. Tomorrow we have Carmel, who's going to join us and talk about how we can listen to babies using the Lundy model approach. And then Thursday, then we're going to look at some research that was done with the RCSI around the experiences of women in the perinatal period, and obviously the connection between, you know, maternal mental health and the infant mental health. So some really interesting webinars coming up, and then we have a showcase event on Friday morning in the Richmond Barracks for Dublin City South area services are going to have a showcase there. So without further delay, I'll hand over to Trish, and really delighted to have Trish from Let's Grow Together in Cork to share her expertise around newborn baby behaviour observation. So I'll hand it over to you, Trish, and thank you so much.
Thanks a million, Emma. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name is Trish Hurley. As Emma said, I'm working with Let's Go Together. I'm the Infant Mental Health and Wellbeing Coordinator there. And my role today is just to share our experiences of the newborn observational tool as a way of connecting with parents and to build, you know, parents' awareness of their baby and support them, you know, in the relationship. So I suppose that's ultimately our role. And I suppose just to give you a context of where we are, I'll briefly run through. Let's Go Together is one of the area-based childhood programmes. We're based in the northwest side of Cork City, and our focus is on prevention, promotion and early intervention. So we have 4 interconnected strategies that we work with: infant mental health, speech, language, communication and literacy, early years care and education, and schools and community. So, and all of this is supported by monitoring and evaluation with a strong overarching infant mental health framework that takes the child and the family from pregnancy all the ways up through the early years. So we work directly in family homes in the early years from pregnancy for preschool mentors work in the preschool setting, supporting professionals there. And then the schools and community worker works with the schools community and the community itself to build capacity and to support them there. So we offer direct work to direct support to children, parents and caregivers, capacity building, and all that's integrated throughout the whole team. So we have a really strong connection there. It's a multidisciplinary team. So our vision, our communities are places where children experience happy and healthy and thriving childhoods that last a lifetime, and no child is left behind. And our mission is to work in partnership with everybody in those children's lives, and to share the knowledge, skills, resources, empowering families and enabling children through their relationships, because that's really the key, and in their communities to be nurtured, fulfilled, achieving and learning. So this is just an overview of what we offer, taking families from pregnancy all the way through. And you can see down there that the NBO is the universal offering offered to babies postnatally from 0 to 3 months. And it's really a non-threatening, universal, supportive, strengths-based offering that really is taken up very well. It's an optional offering. People can decide to engage with it or not, but it's quite popular, and it really blends in and is part of the pathway of supporting parents throughout childhood. These are the capacity building trainings. You can see very infant mental health focused, very communication focused with the Hannans, the Doodle Dens in the school, supporting language and literacy. And we also connect with universities, building, capacity through, undergrads, postgrads, I think trying to, share the message at that really crucial stage when practitioners are learning is really important. The importance of relationship building and the early years. And then, of course, all of us are supported through clinical supervision to do this work. The newborn observational system training we offer as well. Over the past few years, we've trained about 100 practitioners in the NBO. So that is via the the NBO Newborn Observational International collaboration and with the Brazelton UK. So that's been really successful, and a lot of practitioners that we work with would have the NBO training done. So I suppose really today is all about the importance of the early years, building connection from the start, and the foundation for virtually every aspect of human development, physically, intellectually, emotionally, are all laid down in childhood. And even just to think about that. So what happens early really matters, starting in the womb. And this has a lifelong effect. And that's why we really love working from pregnancy. It's a place to build trust. It's a really key transition place that can, move a family naturally along into the postnatal period, because trust is such a big key part of building relationships for all of us. So we're thinking about brain plasticity, and we're thinking about neuroscience, and that's one of the key things and the foundational pieces used in the NBO, in that they're really trying to maximize the first 3 months, where there's a period of optimum growth. There's a window of maximum growth in relation to synaptic connection. So, I mean, all of the time, there's billions and billions of nerve cells growing and developing and connecting, and it's most especially, though, in the early years. So the brain is very adaptable and can be influenced by positive experiences, which we're trying to enhance, but also quite aware that the brain is vulnerable and can be harmed by negative experiences. So we're thinking prevention and early intervention in this space. So if you come into this space thinking kind of in this kind of way, you're really supporting kind of intervention at a possible earlier stage than maybe if you weren't as accessible to parents in this time. And I suppose looking at this graph, Kevin Nugent shared this graph a few weeks ago when I was at a presentation with him, and it really struck me as being quite impactful, especially for those of you who are in the language development world, communication development world. So if you look in the later stage, the later trimester, the sensory pathways are all being, connected up in there. So babies can hear in the last trimester. They can hear parents' voices or caregivers' voices. And when you look at language development, it peaks there in the early years, right up until, the 6 and 7. Also, sensory pathways are at their peak in this time too, because babies learn through their senses, through touching, through smell, through sound. So this, the more we can stimulate through sensory input, the more the babies are receptive at this stage to all that contact time, and also higher cognitive function there, but that continues on a little bit more. So it's a really interesting graph. It comes from the Neurons to Neighborhoods by Shankov. So it's a really interesting one when you talk about communication and the importance of the early years. And the quality and content of a baby's relationship with his parents has a physical effect on the neurobiological structure of a child's brain, which will be enduring. And Shankov would say it's better to get it right first time than to try to fix it later. And that's so true. You know, if we can get in it all into the parents when they're in this vulnerable transitional state, you know, moving into parenthood, it's such a key place, you know, for families. They're most receptive to learning. Very often it's kind of a time when they've access to services as well, where they're more visible maybe. And there is a real sense of, you know, wanting to do better, and there's a lot of intention as part of the process. So trying to harness that and work with that in the early years, working with families here, is a real privilege and an opportunity. So babies, so when they're born, they're programmed for relationship. They really are. And so their brain occurs in the context. So they need another in order to thrive and flourish. So the developing brain occurs in the context of relationship with another self, another brain. And Winnicott would say there's no such thing as an infant. If you set out to describe a baby, you will find yourself describing a baby and another. So the relationship, they say in infant mental health, is the client. You're really looking at what's happening between the caregiver and the baby. And babies, you know, they actively seek out to connect, and they prefer to interact and communicate with their caregivers. They reach out. It's part of their survival. They need their caregivers to look out for them. So it's a real survival mechanism. So baby communication in the first few months of life. So we know that babies love to hear familiar voices. Particularly their caregivers, and they're often calmed by gentle, rhythmic, methodic, repetitive sounds. So that's why the nursery rhymes are so nice, you know, and people naturally all over the world practice this parentese or motherese, that kind of sing-song, gentle, rhythmic sound when they're talking to babies. And that's really soothing and comforting, and all of that really nurtures babies' development. We also know that sudden noises can startle newborns, but you know, they gradually adjust to the everyday sounds of being outside the womb. And Michael Wertheimer was the first researcher to demonstrate that newborns could orientate towards sound as early as 10 minutes. So newborns, they can turn and look. I mean, that's fascinating, that straight away that capacity to hear and reach out and communicate is there. And by the end of 3 months, babies have developed a strong sense of responsiveness and engagement, and they're already starting to communicate. And, you know, they're cooing, they say a lot through their facial expressions, their head turning when they want to engage. Maybe when they don't want to engage, they're gentle turning away. That's language. So, you know, that's really the baby telling us what's happening for them. And so, you know, and this is what we have to learn in the early years in order to understand them. So human beings generally need to feel connected. We all do. Someone who knows and understands us, someone we can trust, someone who we can depend on and count on, and someone who loves us. So that's what babies need. And they need that consistent, attuned, responsive caregiving that allows them to feel safe, seen, soothed, and secure. So that's kind of, when you're thinking about working with families, you know, we really want to be, you know, sharing with parents the importance of, you know, following baby's lead and identifying need, but also really kind of attuned to the good enough parent. And I suppose we really want to kind of move away from the perfect parenting and to work with what's present and build on strengths. And the NBO is perfect for that, because you're really picking up on what the parents already know and build on that. So there is a sense of humility, both, you know, in around what the parents have and what they bring into all relationships. So here, just to think about the NBO and what it is. So just to bring us back to that. So, and how can it support communication? So it's a strengths-based observational tool, and it was developed by Kevin Nugent Harvard University and Boston Children's Hospital, but it was built on the work of Dr. Barry Brazelton. And Kevin Nugent is still very active in the world of the NBO. He loves giving presentations. He does give the mentorship after NBO as well, online. And he's Irish, and he really has a strong affiliation with Ireland, and hence the connection between the NBO and Ireland. Really, he loves really to see Irish people take up the NBO. It aims to nurture and support parent-infant relationship in the first 3 months of life, because that's kind of the first 100 days. Designed to help parents and practitioners understand newborns' unique behaviour and to understand their communications cues just by watching them. So, you know, the wait, watch and wonder kind of philosophy, where you're stepping back and looking maybe at their motor function, their regulation and their responsiveness. So it's a strengths-based capacity building tool, but it's not an assessment. And I think that's really an important thing, because a lot of parents really think that it's not just another test. But what we say when we're, you know, making the appointment for the NBO, we just say it's like, you know, it's baby's first visit, you know, with us, just so, and we use it as an opportunity just to get to know baby. So we don't even really make it, we don't call it, you know, anything formal. We describe it when we're there and explain it to the parents beforehand. And we might say, you know, focus on observing the newborn, what they might be telling us. So, and we focus on what they can do, build, you know, the infant competencies, but also recognizing difficulties as developmental challenges. And, you know, even though that's not the focus, sometimes it can come up, but it's more strengths-based, so what the baby can do. So it's a unique opportunity to work alongside the parents in partnerships. So you're stepping into their home, you're coming into their world, or maybe they're coming into the office, depends on their circumstances and what their home circumstances are like and their choice. And it's really good because it's at a time, you know, in the first 3 months postnatally, parents can feel very vulnerable and they could need support. And, you know, they could be working away in the background, exhausted, tired. Their public health nurse calls for the first while, but then maybe not as much. And then having someone come in and share joy and share the delight of their baby with them can really be a very positive experience. It offers insights to guide parents in meeting their baby's needs, boosting their confidence, and nurturing that parent-infant relationship. It gives the baby the voice, so you're really putting the baby in the spotlight. It's the baby show. You know, it's all about the baby, really. What they like, what they don't like, their preferences, strengths, and their individuality. And it also, though, the support of the NBO enhances practitioners' knowledge and competency in supporting the parent-baby relationship, because it's an intervention that's structured, semi-structured, in that, well, you have 18 items and you work with those, but then there's a lot of room to move within those items as well. And it's customized to where baby is when you arrive into the house. You know, so if they're asleep, you start at that. If they're awake, you start at that. So the NBO session, as I said, it's carried out, it lasts about 20 to 40 minutes, depending, usually goes on a bit longer because you're chatting about everything else as well. But the formal session usually lasts about 20 minutes. It's individualized and responsive to the baby. There's in the NBO, there's observations around how babies respond to sound and light when they're asleep. So we call that habituation to light, how well that baby can adapt and protect their sleep. Sleep states, so we work through the different sleep states, from deep sleep to light sleep, drowsy, quiet, active and crying. We think about the baby's motor responses, you know, their muscle tone, their leg tone, their arm tone, you know, how they pull up to sit. We look at their autonomic responses. So what babies are telling us, you know, from their nervous system space. So the color, you know, or they have little startle reflex, their tremors. So all that is information. Their activity and reflexes, you know, we reconnect with the grip, you know, their little recoil of the legs, the crawling reflexes. So, you know, we revisit all of those with the parents. A real fun part is their response to the faces and the voices of their caregivers, and of us as well, the practitioners, depending. And then we compare that to maybe inanimate objects like the red ball in the picture or a rattle. So, And crying and soothability, we talk about that and how maybe we could work with soothing baby and how best to do that. And how baby responds to stress. So any form of stress, even undressing, and can they move from being distressed into transition? How much and how easy is it for them to move from being distressed to a little bit more balance? So all of it is very interesting. There's a lot of wondering, a lot of thinking about maybe thinking out loud what might baby be feeling. And that builds parental reflective capacity, or mentalization, as Fonigy would say. So really it's a nice little kit caboodle. I have the kit here. So this is a little kit that you bring along to the home, and then you'd use the items according to need. So it also is, it offers an opportunity to build a relationship with the parents and caregivers to consider how they're getting on and adapting to parenthood. So I mentioned that. It increases their ability to tune in and respond sensitively to the parent, to build reflective functioning. It helps parents to see their baby as independent and unique, but also, quite connected. So they're unique, but they still need their caregivers. And they have their own desires, needs, and intentions. And one of the most lovely things is to experience that shared delight that you have with a caregiver when you're observing their baby and you're both delighting together in the baby. It really amplifies the delight. So I think that's really a unique piece. And I know if anyone did circle of security training, delight features hugely in the need, in the children's needs, the need for their parents to delight in them for just being themselves. So it also is an opportunity to offer other forms of guidance, like back to sleep, maybe tummy time. So you're kind of opportunistically threading other little bits, maybe feeding issues come up. But that's not the focus, but you can maybe park those and deal with them at a different time. There's written feedback given to the parents as well in relation to the strengths of the baby, and that's given in the baby's voice. So, when I'm distressed, I like when you smile at me, or I like when you hold me, I like when you gaze at me, or when you sing for me, so it's like what the baby would say if they could say in verbal tones, what they would say to their parents. And it also offers the practitioner an opportunity to reflect in action and on action. And it's it's used in our community, but it's also used in clinical settings as well, and educational settings worldwide. So there's a lot of research. So if you're really interested in all the research, if you go to the Newborn Behaviour International website, you'll see there's research dating back to 2006, all the ways to 2021 to the present. And then, there's randomized control trials highlighting, the NBO and its association with higher quality of care, and the facilitation of optimal parent and infant social interaction. The NBO in enhancing parental attunement and reducing parental stress. The NBO, in its ability to create more comfort and confidence for parents when leaving the hospital. The NBO went in an early intervention process as an early intervention tool, and Kevin Nugent himself and Lise Johnson were involved in the newborn observational system, a relationship building intervention to support families in the neonatal unit. So there's a whole lot more as well if you want to research a little bit more on the evidence connected to this tool, which is really useful. Okay, so yeah, that's it in a nutshell, really. Susan describes it really well, and you can see there in the video, where the red ball is being used, the inanimate object. So they're working with the eye tracking, the baby's ability to track from a very young age. So there's 18 items, and they don't have to all go in sequence. You really the baby takes the lead, so you just work with what you have. So I suppose what I want to do next is just to share a case study. So it's a composite case study. It's a reflective case study that involves Sarah, who's the infant and family project worker. So it's her using the NBO in practice as an early intervention building tool with Clara, Jack, and baby Connor, who's 2 months old. So the context is Clara is referred to Let's Grow Together, let's say, by her public health nurse after sharing her anxiety, loneliness, and exhaustion during her baby's developmental check. With no immediate family nearby, she felt isolated and vulnerable. The family were also living in unsuitable accommodation, causing additional stress. So that's the context. So it's a process recording, as I said, using the NBO as a relationship building tool. So I'm not going to move forward on the PowerPoint. I'd invite you to sit back now into your chair, put your feet on the ground, relax your shoulders away from your ears, take a few deep breaths, and maybe just close your eyes or keep your eyes low. You don't have to look at the screen. There's nothing really major more on it. And I'm just going to read out for you Sarah's reflection. So she's reflecting in action and on action. So on the first day of our first appointment, I go to Clara's house, just minutes from the Let's Go Together office. I know this place and its people well, as I grew up and went to school in this neighbourhood. I take comfort in this familiarity as I prepare to meet this new family for the first time. I feel excited and nervous, but remember what I learned in my NBO training. When in doubt, bring attention back to the baby. I keep this in mind as I meet this new family. Clara warmly welcomes me and guides me to take a seat, while Jack eagerly prepares tea for everyone. I remind myself that I'm a guest in their home, and with that comes the responsibility to be respectful and authentic, to ask permission, to check in if things are okay or not okay, to build trust. As Connor sleeps in his bouncer, I use the opportunity to connect with the family. We talk about Connor, his birth, what he likes, his development, and their hopes and fears. Clara comments that she looks forward to learning more about her newborn, as she has little prior experience with infants. She also shared that she miscarried during her last pregnancy, and she feels nervous about caring for her new baby, fearing that she will hurt him or miss something really important. I empathise with Clara and recognise the difficulties of parenting after experiencing a loss. I make a conscious note to consider this in my interactions, to slow things down, to be calm and capture moments of meeting between herself and her baby, to build her confidence and to see Connor in his own light rather than the shadow of the baby that was lost. Jack mentions that his sister and niece are also part of the Let's Go Together programme and enjoy the PEEP parent and toddler groups. And this reminds me that creating links for families and connections is really crucial for families to build trust and gain a clear understanding of what services are available. I briefly explain the NBO, then position myself on the floor next to Connor and I ask, let's look at Connor's behaviour together. What is he telling us? What can we learn about him? Through this reflective lens, I hope that Jack and Clara will hold Connor in mind, respecting and understanding his uniqueness and his individuality, while also being dependent on his parents for love and attention. As we go through the 18 observational items, Clara and Jack seem fascinated to see how Connor protects his sleep when exposed to light and sound. I use this opportunity to highlight Connor's resilience and self-regulating capacity to adapt to stressors in his environment, even at this early stage. Clara comments, it's good to know that Connor is more able than I thought. I didn't realise he could communicate with us already. Connor begins to wake up and show signs of fussiness and distress. Jack gently moves towards Connor, comes down to his level, and uses his voice and face to calm him down. This is a unique moment of meeting between father and son, and I comment on how lovely it must feel for Connor to be seen, heard, and responded to by his dad when he needs him. By recognizing what Jack is already doing and highlighting how this interaction can benefit his baby, I hope that Jack will have the confidence to continue to build on this way of being with his baby over time. I share information on baby states, sleep states, and soothing techniques, which obviously Dad has already naturally demonstrated. This prompts Clara to speak about her own lack of sleep and exhaustion, and we discuss ways on how they as a family might manage this. Clara also shares her fear and reluctance to share Connor's care. Jack is surprised that Clara has never shared this with them before, but offers to be more involved in Connor's everyday care in the future. I understand that communication can get disrupted during the busy early parenthood stage, and I recognise the significance of my role in providing a reflective space for sharing thoughts, emotions at the right time and in the right place. I know Clara's concerns about sharing care for Connor, and I will address this in future work. I consider how these experiences from the unremembered past reminds me of Freyberg's Ghosts in the Nursery, and how these subjective experiences can influence a parent's way of being with their baby in the present. As we move through the sequence of exploring Connor's motor tone, his hearing, and visual and social preferences, I feel heartened to witness Jack and Clara discover and understand the uniqueness of their baby, and how helpful the NBO is offering a space to delight in Connor for just being himself. I, as the facilitator of the session, am aware of creating a parallel space that provides a felt sense of safety, of being listened to without judgment, reflecting and checking in, modelling the model of safe relationship, so they, in turn, can offer this containment for their son. The NBO has allowed parents to openly share their thoughts and emotions about their baby as themselves as individuals and as parents. I go on to share the Let's Grow Together supports, the leaflet, with which Clara and Jack briefly outline, outline the one-to-one and group activities that are available. Clara seems excited about attending a baby massage. She's already noticed that Connor loves his head being rubbed, and this could be a great way to settle in before bedtime. They also register with the Let's Go Together home visiting programme, offering one-to-one support for the infant and family support worker to continue to build on the work of the NBO, to strengthen the caregiver-child relationship, to build reflective functioning, and work in partnership with the family to address any other needs that may arise beyond the NBO. So as the session comes to an end, Clara and Jack thank me for helping them understand Connor's communication and say that they look forward to the next visit. I feel privileged to have been part of such an authentic interaction and the opportunity to meet this young family at this critical transition stage. So the transition to parenthood can be a challenging experience for anyone, but can prove especially challenging and difficult for those who've experienced intergenerational adversity and disadvantage. So the Newborn Behavioural Observation tool in the community creates meaningful interactions that help us understand babies' feelings and experiences. So by observing their behaviour as a form of communication, we can amplify their voices and help them feel safe, seen, and understood. So I hope that space was helpful. So I'm just going to conclude now. And in my conclusion, I just want to say that the NBO for us as an organisation offers a valuable opportunity for us to work alongside parents as they transition to parenthood, which can be a time when they're vulnerable, as I said. It's a reliable and easily accessible tool that can highlight the baby's capacities so that parents can begin to see their baby as a person and understand and respond to them in a way that meets their unique developmental needs. And it also helps parents discover the real baby, this baby that has his own desires, needs, intentions, and thoughts. It also helps to scaffold those lovely moments of meeting, like in the case study, to support the emerging relationship between the parent and the infant. So really, just to finish, there's a powerful quote from Barrett Brazelton, and it says, "Baby's behaviour is their language, and we can trust that language." So thank you very much. I hope you've a good sense of the NBO, And I know we have an opportunity for question and answers, so maybe if you have any, you can ask me, or maybe ask me at a later stage if that doesn't suit you. So thank you so much.
That's great. Thank you so much, Trish. That was a really informative session. So much to take in there. Just from the graph that you shared initially at the beginning in relation to the language in the last trimester of pregnancy, the 18 items that you spoke about and went through as well, really, really good to be aware of and to talk through. I really liked the fact of the positive feedback given to parents by the practitioner from their observations, and it's really about the voice of the baby being heard. So that was, really lovely to see there as well. And I think the video, and apologies, I think some people had issues hearing it, and that so look, this is recorded, so we will have it on ISPCC platforms. You'll be able to look back and we'll find the links for people to see them as well. So apologies about that. But that and the case study at the end that you shared there, Trish, it really did bring it all together, but you could really see how the connection and the relationship is so important within the NBO as well. So it was really lovely. So thank you very much. So just before we're going to go to Q&A, so if anybody does have any questions, please pop them into the Q&A box there and we will get to them. But we're just going to run a quick anonymous poll just before we go into that, just to gather some feedback on the webinar from yourselves. If you wouldn't mind taking a few seconds to complete it, it should pop up on your screen. We'd really appreciate that. And now we're going to go and check our Q&A. So if people have any, pop them in there for Trish.
I can see there. There's a few questions coming in already, I think. So
yeah,
it sounds very interesting. I wonder who typically trains in this. Are you aware of many CDNTs with NBO trained staff? Yes. Anyone who works directly with babies in this space, that's the criteria usually when we kind of offer it as a training. That will be the prerequisite, because there isn't really a point of offering it to people who haven't got access to babies. So that's the only criteria really, and a genuine interest and curiosity about babies. Of course, it would help if maybe parents or if the practitioner has some sort of background, but it's not necessary, because I know the NBO has been used to train kind of home visitors in Pakistan and who have a basic understanding of working with families. So I presume if you're working directly with children already, you have some sense of babies and children. And then the NBO is, the training itself is packaged in a way that what you need is present. And it really, what you're doing is just, the baby's leading, the baby, the lens is on the baby. And if you're in doubt, as we said, bring it back to the baby. And it does create a nice structure for you to work with. You get better as you go along, but really it's all about building relationship and building curiosity and reflective capacity. So you don't need any major league skill set beforehand. And that's the next question.
I was about to say, does a practitioner require any particular clinical training to administer it?
Yeah, I think it was set out initially in Boston Hospital, but as it's evolving, it's been used in the community setting, and we've been using it in the community setting as one of our universal offerings. We have a multidisciplinary team. We have early years practitioners, speech and language therapists, nursing staff. It's also used by, I know we had a holistics trained person working in baby massage. She used it in her baby massage. The public health nursing team use assessments in their work, and they kind of would adapt. Maybe sometimes if they haven't got time to do the full NBO, they would take pieces of it, or even just the ethos of it, and integrate it. So you can adapt a little bit, but I think people will use it in their own sector according to what suits them. But the basic foundational training is enough for you to work with the families without any particular extraordinary training outside of the fact that you're working with the families already.
There's another one there, Trish. Do you provide NBO training at Let's Grow Together? And also, is there an NBO service available for parents in Kerry? A wonderful service. Thanks.
Do we provide training? Now, we work through the newborn observational childline.org connection. So we work with Kevin Nugent. So the Boston Children's Hospital, the Boston Children's Hospital and Harvard and the Brazelton UK do collaborations on offering the training. So we don't give the training, we host the training. So the trainers come from the States and the UK, and it's online. Sometimes it's face-to-face, depending. So we did it the last we did 4 rounds of it now. And we had trainers from the UK and from America training them. So we just facilitated, we recruited, we gathered the information, shared it with Newborn International and Brazelton UK, and they did the rest. So yeah, and all of our team would be trained, but the training would come through us sometimes. So it really just depends on our funding stream. But you can go directly to Newborn International yourself and do the trainings. There's a whole training part of the website that you can access where there's loads of information.
Okay, yeah, great. There was a few questions in relation to that, so that's brilliant. Where it can be accessed, and also the cost of it, if you have any idea of that.
I think it costs around €800, but that varies depending. We did it as a group, so that could vary. If you went, you can go independently to the States as well and do it yourself. You have to work with time zones, so like you'd have to make sure you fit into a time zone that suits the west or part of the world. Otherwise, you'd be getting up at small hours in the morning to do the training. So just watch that if you do want to do it independently.
Great, brilliant. Thanks, Trish. There's no more questions that have come in there.
Okay.
So if anyone does have a further question, they can link in with us and we can pass them on to
Absolutely.
Trish to get in touch as well. So please do that. So firstly, just on behalf of ISPCC, I'd like to thank Trish very much for being here and with Dublin CYPSC for the collaboration. And I'd like to wish you all a good day. But before I do that, I'm just going to hand over to Emma to conclude today's webinar.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Trish. That was absolutely amazing. I was just thinking how I would have absolutely loved that as a new parent going back nearly a quarter of a century ago now. But it's just such a wonderful way to work with families. And yeah, I can see just the deepness you feel for your work, which is absolutely amazing. So thank you for sharing that with us and sharing the story of the baby and his parents. Really gives a lovely insight as to the dynamic and how many different and multiple voices that babies bring to their world, and how we can amplify that. And that feeds nicely into tomorrow's Learn at Lunchtime webinar, whereby Carmel from Early Childhood Ireland is going to speak about the baby's rights and the right to be listened to. So it'll be really nice to sort of see kind of that aspect of it through the Lundy model. So we're very much looking forward to that. But thank you so much for being so generous with your time and answering the questions. And it was really fantastic. And hopefully everybody was able to take something away from today. So we look forward to seeing some of you hopefully again tomorrow. And then on Thursday, then we have our last webinar at the same time again around Let the Nets Connect campaign around the maternal mental health week. So it'll be great to see you all again tomorrow and Thursday. So thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much to the ISPCC for having us and for facilitating this for us, and then also to Healthy Ireland for providing the funding, and Nuala, who is the CYPSC coordinator for Dublin City South. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
I hope you have a
Bye.
nice, relaxing evening after your little restful state there for 10 minutes before you head it off. So thank you.
Thanks, Trish.
Thank you.